Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your Monday night edition of Not Another Rangers podcast. We're back. We weren't here on Friday. Hopefully, we weren't too alarmed and sitting there watching a blank YouTube screen for an hour. But we took a little bit of break, and because obviously not much happens. International fortnight. It's been 8 days since last Rangers game. It seems like a lot longer. You start to get that itch, wanting to watch the football again. Till Saturday comes in, and then that itch becomes something totally different altogether. But at the moment, we're edging towards Saturday in our first home game back after the latest international break. So we thought we'd come back, chat some things Rangers, talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening, some of the news, some of the stories, and maybe pick up some days gone by and some of the old players we used to remember who used to play high-class international careers. That's the thinking for tonight. So how are you, Ricky? How's things in Cyprus? I believe it's roasting.
Hot, mate. Hot during the day, cold at night, barbecue during the day, fire on at night. So I've been enjoying the international break. A bit of darts. Loved the darts at the weekend. That was class. Bit of UFC, bit of boxing. Boxing was pretty rubbish. The girls were good. Tyson was terrible, but no, good. Enjoyed it. But like you said, we're looking forward to getting the Rangers back this weekend. And then no international break until March. Woohoo!
And just felt you reminded me of the boxing. Scott, did you watch it? Did you watch the boxing?
Was there boxing on? I thought I was just a missed that time.
There was a 58-year-old man wondering about the ring, I think. There wasn't much else happening in that.
I'm not old Jake Paul offer me a fight next. Listen, that's no boxing for me, I'm sorry. It's just a money grab. It's poor.
It was some of that money, apparently. Was he getting 20 million each or something? That was lots and lots of money. Good luck to him in that sense. Yourself, Scott, so last I spoke to you, I think you were away at another gig, seen a band called, who was it again there?
What one was it, Gary? Been to me.
It was one weekend. Was that some red wine or something like that? Was that who?
Well, UB40 on Saturday night, that was really good, I have to say. Really good. So the wife likes UB40, so we went there on Saturday night, my wife and my daughter and auntie, so it was good. We enjoyed it, and they sung all the good stuff, they sung some up-to-date stuff, but it was really good. So, as you know, I enjoy my gig because the gigs are more enjoyable these days in the football, which wouldn't be hard to be fair.
So, what? Give me the only song I remember UB40 other than Red Wine was Can't Help Falling in Love, and I vaguely remember it being a Sharon Stone soundtrack to a Sharon Stone movie. Way back in the 90s. Maybe it's a Sharon Stone movie I remember more than I remember the song. Was that what it was? It might have been. Sliver, I think it was, Ricky. So, I think just I seen that thing from Paul there. First thing first, the Rangers women yesterday had a great result, winning 3-2. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It was on Sky Sports.
That game yesterday, yeah, that's a really good game of football. Both sides played well. Rangers were the best team in the first half, and then they conceded just near at half time with a set piece. But second half they came out and played really well again and went ahead, and then Celtic equalised, but they got the winner. Chelsea Clement scored a really good goal, but they played really well. It's good to see because the last few times they've played against them, they went ahead and they pulled it back to draw, but it's good to see. But unfortunately, as Celtic do, this is a dig at Celtic, right? I know they're having a lot of plaudits now, but every time they get beat, it's the ref's fault. I'm not surprised that happens quite a lot, but the ref isn't great, but he wasn't bad either. Do you know what I mean? Refs are refs. You need a ref to ref the game, and they're going to get poor decisions, they're going to get good decisions, but it wasn't his fault to get beat.
And Ricky, did you catch any of it?
I saw the amazing interviews at the end. I saw the Celtic manager storming down the tunnel and going a bit crazy. That was quite amusing. And then I saw one of their players on Twitter today giving an interview. Like, it was quite amusing as well. Everything was a conspiracy. The referee was this, the referee was that. So it was quite mad that they take that mentality into the women's football as well. I'll be honest, Gary, I don't really watch that much of the women's football, to be honest, mate. But that was a good. I followed the results, and it was a good result. They're top of the league, I think, by 4 points. Is that right?
No, Glasgow City are top, about 4 points ahead of them.
Okay,
so that's. Not sure if there's any games in hand. I've not watched the results, but recently I saw a great result for Rangers women.
Good
luck to them. They're certainly the three of them are pretty close. That's one. It's a competitive league, and the last couple of years, well, this season especially, some of the other teams are starting to look a little bit stronger and make it even more competitive that way.
Yeah. it's not everybody's cup of tea, but listen, some of the games are decent, and it was just obviously if you watch Rangers play Celtic at Edinburgh, maybe tune in, and I was in the house yesterday, so I thought I'll get a watch, and I quite enjoyed it. So fair play to them.
Yeah. So Scotland are on this evening. I believe it's half time and they're winning 1-0 against Croatia. I know for some of you, maybe no, Croatia. It's not, that shows how much I know. Poland, another team.
Poland away.
So a lot of fans won't pay a lot of attention to Scotland, as is your want. That's fine. But we have a Rangers player playing there, and we have a Rangers player that's there. So I wanted to pick up on John Souttar, Ricky, just because he was man of the match against Portugal. I think he's probably man of the match again at the weekend against Croatia, and as far as I understand, he's having an excellent game again tonight. And just to get your thoughts on his season, because I think one of the things the commentator Michael Shooter, I should never mention his name on a Rangers podcast, said was how well Souttar's been doing all season.
No, I'm happy with Souttar. I mean, I hear everyone comparing Connor Goldson to Proper, which I just find bizarre because Proper wasn't brought in to replace Connor Goldson. Proper was brought in to play the left side of the defence. So Proper was brought in to replace John Souttar, who was playing left side of the defence, and John Souttar was moved to the right to replace Connor Goldson. And to be honest with you, a lot of people maybe might not agree with this opinion, but my opinion is I prefer Souttar to Goldson. I know he's got a mistake in him, but what people need to understand, this is the first time that he's probably been trusted as a proper Rangers, almost a captain in that defence. And I think we need to stick with him. Okay, he seems to be one of the players that every time he makes a mistake, it leads to a goal. But I think we need to stick with him because I do see he's got a lot. He's good on the ball. He breaks the lines. He comes out of defence quite fast with the ball. He's been outstanding for Scotland in a game and a half. That's three clean sheets, I believe. Or that's 2.5 clean sheets that he's had since he's been playing for Scotland. So I mean that will only help his confidence. So I think the fans need to get behind him. We've got massive problems in other parts of our team, but I don't see John Souttar as being one. I think he's had a good season. He needs to work on his concentration a little bit more, but he has got a lot of good parts to his game that I really like.
Yeah. So he nullified Ronaldo. I think it was Kramaric maybe at the weekend there, Scott, and he's playing against Poland. So he's playing, and even European games, he's playing against high quality opposition. And I think, as Ricky says, he makes a mistake, and it invariably sometimes leads to a goal, but every defender makes mistakes. There's been no goals.
You do. And listen, I think the best thing about John Souttar this moment in time is getting a decent run of football, which in the past few seasons has been stop-start. He's played well and then he's been injured for a while and then he's come back and then he's been injured. And touch wood, he doesn't get injured, but he's played a good run of games. And this is helping his performance. It's helping his level go up, and you can see it in his play. Listen, like you said, Gary, all defenders make mistakes. Doesn't matter what level of football they play at, they make mistakes. Sometimes it's a goal, sometimes it isn't. But we do miss him if he's not in the team because he's as important at this moment in time because obviously Connor Golson's left. Now, when Connor Goldson came in, he was superb. But obviously, like all footballers, age-wise, form starts to go down a wee bit because they're getting older. But John hopefully is just hitting his peak and hopefully stays that way. But he just needs a regular partner. I think that's what's missing. Proper's a bit hit and miss as a player there, but I don't know if he's suited to the Scottish game. And Ballaghan was a good player, but age is going against him as well. So I still think we are centre back to go with Souttar.
So that probably leads us nicely. As if he's led us into a nice wee pathway there. Caston Weirdo apparently has picked up an injury in under 21 duty. I don't know much about it other than he taken off. And he was or has been touted a lot as potentially that other centre half partner for Souttar. How big a loss would he be, Scott?
He was starting to come into it, wasn't he? He was getting more games. We were starting to like him. He was one of these guys. Nobody really knew what his best position was because he played a few different positions. But we liked what we seen. He was full of energy. He was physical, he had the physique. But obviously he's come off injured. I don't know how bad injury is. According to Ricky, he's going to boot for the season. But don't listen to him. Hopefully it's just a pull on his back maybe next week, the week after. But it's not great to hear when your player gets injured because he was coming into the team, he was doing well, and we all want him to start. So that's good news for you, Gary. That's me a game time for Tav.
Well, he'd have been playing anyway. It wouldn't have bothered me.
No, he twisted. It was one I saw it on. He came on as substitute. They were playing against England tonight, and it was one of the innocuous ones where he stood on the ball and then he twisted his knee, and it looked quite a bad one on his left knee, and he was crying when he came off the pitch. So when a player's crying when he's coming off the pitch, it doesn't look good when he's getting carried off and there's tears running down his face. So it looked a really bad one, to be honest. But hopefully the scans come back and it's not as bad as nobody was near him, like Paul says, So hopefully it's not as bad as it looked on the TV, But you can always tell by the player's reaction, and the reaction was quite brutal when you saw he was really sad when he was coming off the pitch. So, but hopefully he's okay.
Hopefully that's the case. I mean, the one good thing, I suppose, if he's not, and I don't mean this badly, but it's an option to buy rather than an obligation to buy. If there is a significant injury in there, that probably, hopefully, we don't do what we done with Cortez and buy the guy despite him being injured. So the other thing I was going to pick up on, and it's far across my mind, Ricky, is that I've watched some of these Scotland games, and Kenny McLean has been playing. I've never been a huge fan of Kenny McLean, but watching him against good quality opposition, I started thinking to myself, was he that number 6 that would have really made a big difference to our team this season? That calm, composed on the ball?
Yeah, I think we've always had players like that. You look back with Walter, he brought in players like Christian Daly, and fans would have never went for that signing. And Christian Daly done a good job. Walter used to always pull these little nuggets in from players that we thought were coming to the end of their career, but they would come in and give you like 2, 3, 4 good years at Rangers. And I think Kenny McLean could have done that, but he's on. The problem for us now, Gary, is these guys are on ridiculous money in the Championship. It's very difficult. I know Kenny McLean may be a Rangers fan, but the age he's at, you're going to give Kenny McLean £20,000 to come and play for Rangers at his age, I mean, we're moving. It would have looked a bit daft. I agree. We could do with the experience and stuff like that if it was ever an option. We don't know. Maybe the Rangers looked at his wages and went, "Oh, it's a little bit too rich for us," and also they were going to have to pay a small fee for him. So, I think for us, I don't see Kenny McLean coming to Rangers. But you're right. He has been really good in that Scotland team over the last 3 games, and they're getting good results at the end of this group. Maybe playing against the better opposition. You've got to say, well, I'm not Steve Clarke's biggest fan, but he's put young Doak in the team, which might be a sign to us. Why do we not give our youth players a chance? He's put young Doak in the team, and he's starting to get results again, Steve Clarke. So you've got to give them a little bit of credit, Scotland.
Scott, just on Kenny McLean, I'm going to say I'm surprised probably how good he's looked when I've watched him. I've never really paid enough a lot of attention to him over the years, but he looks far more secure on the ball, calm. That dictating a game, probably the Stephen Davis type mould, than I realised he was maybe capable of. You're on mute, Scott.
He's a very good player, Kane. I remember him coming through at St Mirren because he was at Rangers as a boy, but then they released him. He went to St Mirren. I remember coming through there, and he soon straight away was a really good footballer, technically very good, but he was box to box, obviously, when he was younger. But he could do some things some other players that one couldn't. And that's why he got his move to Aberdeen, but since he went to England, he's had to up his game, but he has. I just think it sometimes is, I don't know if it's a bit of snobbery or it's kind of up because Kenny McLean, he's not good enough for Rangers. We don't know that, do you know what I mean? Sometimes we look at guys and think not straight away without actually seeing how good they are. But I do agree with Ricky. I think the ship might have sailed, I think, because his age and what he's earning. I don't know if he can. I mean, Paul mentioned David Weir. David Weir was a great buy, and you look how that turned out, but I don't know if, because they're trying to get a wage bill down, that's a good move to go back if he's a couple of years younger. I mean, he would do a job no bother for us, but could you build a few years with him in the side? I don't know. I think we'd have to look at the younger option that's out there. And there's a lot of young guys in Scotland. They're good midfielders. They play a little calm on it than we. Obviously, Lennon Miller gets linked, but I think Lennon will end up somewhere else. Because if I was Lennon, I wouldn't stay in Scotland. I would go somewhere else. But there's guys there.
We don't need a young upcoming player, but he's an experienced, cool, calm head.
You do, but Gary, an experienced guy is something like Kenny McLean, but you're paying for that. And will the club go down that route? If that was the case, why would they not just keep drilling something but extra and keep paying for a season or two?
Yeah. I suppose the reason I suppose in my head is because there was certainly a lot of talk in the summertime they seemed to be very close at certain points, didn't it? A lot of the rumours
I
were
think Kenny would come to Rangers, and I think it was just the clubs couldn't agree on wages and stuff. But you probably think they might end up back in Scotland living. But listen, there's guys that you can go and check, but that's up to the scouting department, up to the manager, and Copping will depend who the manager is after the next few months. But that's up to them to look. There's players out there that can fill that void, but it depends. We all know it's all talking about money.
Yeah.
It's all about money. These guys.
He's an important player for Norwich as well, man. They're not just going to give him to Rangers. They need an experience. They see the quality in the guy. He's been there for years. They give him a chance in England, and they're trying to get back to the Premier League. They're not going to do Rangers a favour and just give him up here for £1 million and 10k a week. That's no how it works. So I agree with you. We do need some experience, but I don't think Kenny McLean. I'd be surprised if we see him in the Rangers jersey, to be honest.
I would agree. Just as obviously caught my eye. I just watched him recently, and maybe been slightly more impressed than I thought it was going to be. So looking at some of the other international players, so we had Vaclav Cherny and Bagrami. I think yesterday were playing against each other. So Rangers' real attacking threat, really the skill, the heartbeat of the team in terms of scoring goals. I don't know if any of you know what the score was.
Yeah, it was 0-0. It was 0-0, and Bajrami got subbed off and got just. They were going mad in Albania. They want the manager fired. They played him on the left, and he was honking. He got subbed off after 70 minutes. Cherny got subbed off after 60 minutes. So they're keeping them fresh for. They're like Rangers. They're keeping them fresh for Tottenham and Celtic.
And same as Haji played a little bit of the game, didn't he?
No, Haji came on as luck continued. He came on for 1 minute and the game got abandoned. He came on the 89th minute. He's playing tonight on the right. I don't know the score. Romania's beating Cyprus 2-0 at half time, but he actually came on the 89th minute, and the fans started chanting Serbia, and the players walked off the pitch and the game got abandoned. So Haji's bad luck continues, but he's starting tonight. The manager
at least he's not injured.
At least he's not injured, exactly.
And I don't think, I might be wrong, I can't think of many other international players. Obviously Barron's there on the bench. But
well, I noticed tonight McCausland wasn't involved in Northern Ireland. I think he was in the squad, so I hope he's not got in. Well, he might be injured as well, because I noticed he wasn't on the bench. I was checking all the team lines tonight and he wasn't on the bench, so that was a strange one.
No, I didn't see that. I wasn't sure if he was injured either. So in terms of the international games finish tomorrow night, isn't it? Tuesday night international games, and then everybody returns on Wednesday morning for their club. On Saturday we face the United. So what I don't want to do is talk too much about that game specifically, because we've got a preview pod on Friday and we'll have nothing to say. So I think the focus maybe over the next wee bit is to kind of pick up on where we are between now and start of 2025, so before the Old Firm game. So we've got 7 league games, I think. We've got a cup final, and we've got a couple of European games. And I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of have a wee look around some of those different competitions, really, see where we think we're going to be and how we're going to go with that. I suppose there's, in terms of league, and I we look to see we're playing, we've got games against Dundee United at home on Saturday, away to St Johnstone, home to Kilmarnock, away to Ross County, home to Dundee, away to St Mirren, and away to Motherwell. Now 7 very winnable games, Ricky, you would suggest?
They're winnable, mate. It's our away forum. We need to see 2 things before. One, we've got an AGM coming up on the 5th of December, which I think is going to be pretty hostile anyway. So we need to see a big improvement in our away forum. Our away forum has been absolutely terrible now for about 9 months in Scotland. For some reason, we play well in Europe away from home, but in Scotland we've been. So we need to see a big improvement there. And for the fans as well, going to Ibrox, I know it doesn't get any easier for the players, mate. They're going to be playing every 3 days, and it's going to be tough, but we need to see an improvement in players. What gives me a little bit of hope is we've got a lot of quality back training again, and the manager has to get this quality back into the team as soon as possible. You know, you've got now Matondo's back, you've got Yilmaz is back, he's been training for weeks, you've got Danilo's back, he's been training for weeks, so it's time to see these players in the team now, and hopefully that will help, even the squad, it will help the squad just to give it that a little bit of injection of quality, and we can see and performances improve. Europe, I mean, we've did quite well with the points we've got on the board in Europe, so we can pretty much Nice away. It would be good to get an extra point there. The Spurs game, I would probably be looking to play a reserve team before the cup final. But the league games, as I said, upturning performances, get these players up to speed in minutes before the cup final, and we need a bit of confidence going into the 15th. That's what we all need as supporters. We don't want to be going into this cup final on the 15th full of empathy, full of like just expecting to get beat. We need confidence going into this cup final. Right now, a lot of fans don't have it, but things can change very fast.
So we'll come back to the cup final a wee while. I'm just going to ask you this question because it popped up on the screen there. Do you think there's any Scottish striker that could do a job for Rangers in January? There's a guy that plays at Hearts that doesn't score goals anymore. But I don't know
do you know what Kerr said earlier on? 100%. This is what's going on right now with Shanklin. Fans turning their nose up because he's. If you look back to players like Brian Laudrup and that, like players like that, their last season, it's very, very difficult to play for your team when your contract is coming to the very end and you've got your heart set on a big move. You just drop off that 4, 5, 6%, and you see it in their performances. I would take Shanklin. I wouldn't take him in January. I wouldn't pay money for him in January because we don't have money to pay for him in January. But 100%, I would sign him on a pre-contract. And Cameron from Dundee, you can do both of their deals for free for the summer, and they would both be fantastic additions for next season.
So not Shanklin. You can't say Shanklin, right? So what Scottish striker would you potentially bring in?
To be honest with you, at the start of the season, I did say Kevin Nisbet because I knew he was struggling at Millwall, but obviously he went to Aberdeen. But at the moment, there's no really any strikers out there who I would bring in. I would look further afield, but we do need a striker, to be fair to you. Unless Danilo stays fit, because I think he can offer us something different for the Dessers. But the only thing Danilo has to prove is he can score goals as well. But I think he offers us something totally different than Dessers offer.
So I'm going to name a random one here because it popped in my head. I see somebody said Dykes. I haven't watched the first half of the game against Poland there. He never held the ball up at all. Bounced off him every single time. So, but
he's not a hold-up striker, Lyndon Dykes. He's more a
nice.
He leads the line, but he doesn't hold the ball to fix it on. He's in there for the crosses. That's the way Birmingham City play him. They don't play him as a hold-up striker.
Like Dessers, you mean?
Dessers.
Like Dessers, that makes sense.
I'm talking about strikers here, Gary.
So, do you know, and not as a first team player or first pick. Somebody like Simon Murray, do you know, is a different option just in terms of pace. I'm not saying he's particularly great, but we've had lots of players over the years, your natural novels, guys that were squad players that could just come and do a job. Stephen Thompson, Billy Dodds.
Did JD send it to you private, that Simon Murray suggestion? No, but you're right. Yeah, I listen. We can't turn our noses up. We don't have any striker right now. You know, we've got 0 out of 3 strikers. We need 3 strikers in our squad. We should have 3 different options. If you said to me next season we would have Simon Murray, sell Dessers, have Shanklin as another option, and have one more proper, we invest in a good scouted striker like Aberdeen has for the last couple of seasons. They find Miovski and then they find a Miovski lookalike who's exactly the same, still rapid, still scoring goals. They're finding these players for less than $1 million. So if you told me we would sell Dessers, Danilo's going to be very difficult to move on, but I still think we're going to have a problem with Danilo's injuries moving forward. I don't think he's going to stay fit. So if we had the 3 strikers, Murray, Shanklin and one more international striker for the big games, I would be more than happy with that next season.
Yeah. So good question there, Paul. So Scott, those league games, 7 league games before we face Celtic at Ibrox. One of the positives, I suppose, or one of the arguments Clement could have made was we played all the big teams away from home in the first tranche of games. We've now got what is meant to be the harder teams at home. And then
Ross, I thought it was only 2 big teams in Scotland, Gary.
What?
I thought it was only 2 big teams in Scotland. Who wasn't they played?
The Hearts. Who was it? Hearts, Dundee United, Kilmarnock. Is that the other ones? I think.
You know yourself, Gary. We've been watching Rangers for that long. If you're struggling against these teams, then is that more an issue than just the managers, the players as well? And I think Clement can't look at his 7 games. He can't drop any points.
Mm-hmm.
For me, he can't drop any points, especially if he doesn't win the cup. If he wins the cup, he's in a wee bit of leeway. But if he doesn't win the cup and he loses one of his draws in a away fixture, and it goes more than 9 points behind.
So would you take
I
Scott
don't know,
Back as a question? So would you take losing the League Cup 3-0 and winning all 7 league games?
I don't want to lose anything, Gary.
No, but I'm not. That's
No,
not the
I don't take
question.
these things.
But if you had a chance to, let's say, lose the League Cup final, and like you said, lose that 3-0 and win all 7 league games and claw back to 6 points or whatever it may be.
No,
That,
because I still don't think that team, that manager win the league. I don't think I could ever.
I would take win the League Cup and drop more points in the league, to be honest, because not too many, because I think Aberdeen have got a brutal run of fixtures coming up. They've got a really tough run of away games coming up. So if they can drop some points and we get, to be honest with you, it's tough to take right now, but Rodgers as a manager, historically, his second season at Always Clubs is always his best season, and he's got them absolutely flying this season. I think even a really good Rangers team would struggle to compete with Celtic this season, because they're probably going to break the 100-point barrier. So we need to forget about them. We need to catch Aberdeen. So if you were giving me the League Cup now to stop the treble, I would take that. And I know it's not the way that Rangers fans normally talk, but we've got to be realistic about the situation we're in, So if we can win that League Cup and then and Clement managed to do it last season. I don't know what happened last season, but I just don't. I think they're a better team this season than they were last season, and I think that we're not in the same place this season as we were last season. So you've got both two swings of the same thing there. So it's difficult for us to see how we're going to catch points up on them, and it's not being realistic,
Does Clement get the time, Gary and Ricky? Does he get the time? Take Europe out of the equation, right? Because that's a bonus if you win some of the games, because they're going against teams who we don't expect to get anything from. But the league games in the cup, does Clement get the time if that goes pear-shaped?
I'll let Gary answer first, and I'll go after Gary.
I suppose it depends. I was deliberately saying if lose 3-0, so I suppose it all depends on the manner. If you go to if the game turns out the League Cup final the same as the Scottish Cup final did, when Rangers were the better team and lost to one mistake by Butland, you maybe get a bit more time across that game. If you win the league games and grind them out, whether you win them good, bad, or indifferent, if you win those league games, you will still get time. As long as as you say, you're teetering.
Does he get the time, but if he loses the cup final and loses a couple of league games, he loses a few points?
I think you get to. I don't think then. I think you get to Christmas, and if you've lost more points league, you're more than 9 points behind. You're out the League Cup. You've probably made Europe, but Europe's not the thing that people are talking about now, isn't it? It's beyond that. I think the fan clamour will just be too much that they would have to go now. Rightly or wrongly, you could argue whether that's going to make a big difference to as a club, but that's the likelihood is if you drop more points. One thing I will take issue with, Ricky, is I watched the Celtic Kilmarnock game. I'm not so sure they're quite as good as people would make it. That was that game could have went a totally different way. I think that was, having watched it, Kilmarnock probably played better against them than they did against us. And Robbie McCrory flinging a goal in the back of net, maybe two, arguably. So I'm not convinced they won't have bad spells as the season goes on. But that's maybe been hopeful more than else. Ricky,
would you take Clement leaving for Belgium, Ricky?
100%, mate. How can I get a private jet to go and pick him up right now? You go and de-ice, get that Prestwick Airport, de-ice the runway, and I'll send the plane, mate, and we'll fly him right over there. Known Rangers, they'll somehow manage to do something that, what I said to you off air, mate, known Rangers, what will happen is we'll reject it, and then we'll end up having to sack him in 3 months' time and pay £3-4 million or whatever it is. But anyway, I mean, it's all rumours today. I think, to be honest, it started on Rangers fans. I think it's very difficult to come back from the situation he's in now. He's lost 5 games against Celtic, and I know there is positives in there as well. His form in Europe and that has been good and stuff like that, but he's lost 5 games against Celtic. So if he goes 6 and 7 and we get to January, it's very difficult to see, because it's very difficult to see how he's going to win every single league game until then as well, unless there's a big improvement in the form. We do have players coming back, so that is a positive, but the fans are pretty much, I think it's like you're heading towards 90% of the fans want him gone, and when you're at that stage, I mean, you guys were at Ibrox, you heard that substitution with Barron. Fans are not happy with the way things are going just now, and when you're at that point, it's very, very difficult to turn it back around.
Scott, do you think that he would take the Belgium job, given all he said about I'm in it for the long haul? It's a project. I've signed a deal to do this. Do you think he would even take the Belgium job?
First of all, I don't like the word project, but Rangers shouldn't be a project for anybody. But you know what I mean. I think depending what's going on behind the scenes, if he's got in his mind that the fans are turning, the board's starting to speak, I'm maybe better back my homeland. The guys who I've worked with before maybe trust me more, and we can get some money for him. Maybe I don't know if the board will react like that, but I think the board will react. You've seen yourself, Gary. The last few games have been empty seats. Even in away games, you're getting tickets more than you were previously. Well, have been, and it's the Rangers don't like that as a board. They don't like seeing empty seats. I know season tickets are most of them like bought up front and stuff, but they don't like to see empty seats at the stadium. I think if that continues and gets more, especially European nights, no selling at the stadium, and that hits them in their pocket, they don't like that. And if they think one of the ways to overturn that is bring a new guy in, I think they might do it. But I don't know, because you don't know where the board thinks. I think it depends who comes in as chairman and CEO when that ever happens. And I know people say you can't keep sacking managers. To a point you can, but also you can't keep a manager who's not doing anything. I don't think we went forward. I can see some things he's done really well, but I think we've regressed since last season under him. And he keeps saying new players, new team. Still a lot of these players were here before he was. So it's not new players and new team. It's in his mind, it is, but it's not in our mind. For the first couple of times you're like, that's great, but he repeats himself, which I don't like, but that's just my opinion. There's a lot of people think different, and I still don't know if the board will sack him. I don't know if we make that call. It depends who comes in, but I think it might get to a point that we have to.
He's on social media as well, Gary. So I think, I think a couple of months ago, I don't think he would have even entertained the Belgium job. I think he was pretty blinkered, and he was, Rangers is my project. I'm going to get this sorted. I'm going to turn this around. And I don't think it's to do with his squad, but I think the backlash of the supporters against him is probably taking him a little bit with a surprise that the fans are not buying any. And he's brought it all on himself with the way he speaks in press conferences and stuff like that. But I know that he has a presence on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So he will be seeing all of that stuff all the time. And it doesn't. I don't know why these people want to take all that stuff in. But it doesn't matter who you are as a human being. If you're seeing all of that absolute anger towards you and there's no positivity anymore, it has to have an effect on your decision for sure.
No, I'd agree. As you say, we're human beings, and abuse and criticism, nobody likes it. People don't like it. It makes them sad, and it's always going to have an adverse reaction. So we've got 7 league games. We've got the European run without going into massive detail. 2 games in Europe. We've got Nice away, and Tottenham at home. 3 points, I think, would probably guarantee us, and then those games into the next phase. Do you think that's feasible, possible, likely, unlikely, Ricky?
I would be looking to the last match, to be honest with you. I would take a point in Nice if we could get a point, and at the Tottenham game, the Celtic game at Hampden is way too important to come on to be fielding as the same team against Tottenham. There, you know what Ange is going to bring. I was hoping he was going to bring some reserve players and that up to Ibrox, but he's under a massive pressure down there now. So he's now they're starting to. I saw some of the memes that have been coming out about him have been absolutely hilarious. Where he's another manager that's just blinkered with his way of playing, and it worked in other places, and he's trying it in England, and it's not working at all. He's just doing the same thing. But it's the hardest league in the world, and it's backfiring on him. So I think when he comes to Ibrox, I think he's going to have to bring a strong team, because they need to get their hands on one of the trophies that they're still in the League Cup. They need to win a cup. So I would be happy with a point in Nice and then take it to the last match, because, as I said, the Celtic game on the 15th is way more important. If we play Spurs, try and go all out in a massive game. I know it's at home and stuff like that, but we need to rest players before the big cup final for sure.
Scott, would you be surprised if we won at least one of those games?
I would be surprised. I think Nice will have to go over there and go for it because away from home we've actually been okay. But he sets up well away from home. Game credit there he does. And so did Van Bronckhorst, to be fair to him. But I think against Spurs, listen, and might be away before that, you never know, because if he keeps dropping Son, the fans don't like it because he's one of the favourites, isn't he? Never know, he could offer him the Rangers job. I'm not talking about Son, I'm talking about Andrew. Oh, like him. But no, I think we know ourselves, it's going to be difficult next 2 games in Europe, and I would take 1 point for the 2 games, but I think the last home game, just if we can win that, it should see us through. But it's all fair and well. Europe was great, we've seen it under Van Bronckhorst, but we want the league, we want the bread and butter, we want the league, we don't want to be sitting third in the league and having a good European one. We want to be fighting for the title and winning stuff, and for a long time we haven't. And Van Bronckhorst get his sack for that, Gary, and I would say under Van Bronckhorst, and that was one of the ones that said maybe he has to go because the fans were turning the board. We're kind of done it quite sneakily on him, I have to say. It wasn't happy how it was done, but I would say we're playing worse at this moment in time than we were under Gio. At least Gio had the horseshoe. Clement's not got a clue. I mean, it's horseshoe and no clue. I don't really know. I mean, I want to be positive and give him praise, but you go to Ibrox and you say to yourself, sometimes you're saying, what's happening here? How are we setting up? How are we playing? And then he does things you think's great, like maybe leaving Tavernier out and bringing Sterling in, who plays really well, and then the next game Sterling in the middle of the park as a sub and Tavernier's back, and you're thinking, why did you make that change so quickly? Because keep the boy in, he's done really well. So I don't know. We just have to take it game by game, and now so does he, and so do the players. We can't look too forward. We can't look ahead to December. We have to look to Dundee United and nowhere else.
So you probably led me to thinking about something else. There's been lots of interviews over the last week. International Fortnight gives lots of interviews, so we'll maybe just pick up on a couple of them. So Connor Goldson's been out. I've read bits of it. I've not read all of it, Ricky. But you know, my summation of it was he was saying he was forced out of the club by mainly because his wages were too high. I think, but my reading of it, he talked about the club in decline after 55 in some ways, and how it was never as strong, and that I suppose there's a lack of leadership maybe in terms of what's left. And there was kind of 3 the bits that jumped out to me. Now, to be fair to him, I actually read it, and most of the stuff I probably agreed with what he said. Whether he should say it or not is irrelevant, but I did agree with the majority of the stuff that he's come out with. Just sometimes people don't like to hear it. Ricky, I don't know if you read much of the stuff.
No, I've read it all, mate. And to be honest, some of it was okay, but I mean, he's contradicting himself. Surely he's contradicting himself. Gerrard left after 55, and Van Bronckhorst came into the building. Him and Tav are the leaders. They should be driving the standards, for God's sake. What standards is he talking about? Is he talking about the way they were treated at Murray Park? Is he talking about the standard in training? Is he talking about, you know, I mean, some of these players come out, a lot of them have said Van Bronckhorst was unbelievable. His tactics were amazing. I've heard people speak about his pre-season wasn't strong enough. The players didn't feel fit enough. They were doing it. So you hear a lot of different stories. But the facts of the matter are, I'm sure that season as well under Gio, we were ahead in the league and we capitulated with Tav and Goldson as the leadership group, and so they're the ones that are supposed to be driving the standards. So I didn't really understand. I thought a lot of the stuff he said was like, well, that's why the club has sold you. Now, the stuff was quite fascinating because it seemed like the manager wanted to keep him, but the hierarchy probably said to Clement, you have to get rid of one of the other. You either need to get rid of Tavernier or you need to get rid of Goldson, because obviously the wages that were on. And at the time we thought that was going to be a good thing, and then the figures came out and we still lost 17 million. So God knows what's been going on at the club. But I thought some of the stuff he said, I always like players being honest, and it's always fascinating to hear when they leave the club, all this stuff sort of comes out in the wash and stuff like that. And I know he's very happy in Cyprus. His family's got a great life in that over here, so he's enjoying it over here. But I'm not. I mean, I think when we look back at the time, he had 6 years at Rangers, we won 3 trophies. He was a good player in certain periods, but there was other periods where. And remember his interview after we got absolutely tanked in the semi-final against Hibs. And I'm sure that was the season. That was just before Van Bronckhorst came in after Gerrard left. So again, the players completely chucked the manager that day. Was it McCallum? I think it was McCallum that day under a bus. You know, they completely chucked him under a bus. There was no leadership. They chucked the guy under the bus, and then Gio came in, and they got beat 3-0 in a cup semi-final. So to me, it doesn't all add up, and I'm not buying what Goldson is selling, if I'm being honest.
He did talk about League Cup game, if I remember rightly, in the article, and says that it was a time he wanted to talk about how the standards had dropped, and I think, if I remember rightly, what he was saying is people weren't running as fast in training, people weren't working as hard, and but
Van Bronckhorst, Gerrard had only left a day. He'd only left 5 days ago. The Hibs players were slagging him off. He left about 5 days, and there he's the captain. They guys are the captain. Like, do you think Walter Smith, when he was the great man he was of Rangers, had to be shouting at the players all the time? The players drove the standards back in their days. They were the ones that made sure. And Man United, you hear speaking about the podcast with Neville. Okay, it's a Man United podcast, that overlap. But when they speak about the dressing room, they all say, okay, the manager was brilliant in the background. He knew when, but the players ran the dressing room, and that's the way it should be. You know, we're speaking about the dressing room needs some experience now, and that's the way that a dressing room should be. The players should be the ones that are right. That's what Celtic have got just now, but we don't have that, and we need to get that going again. You know. Yeah.
So you can pick up Goldson, Scott, if you want, but I suppose the other ones that come out with Haji done a Rangers TV interview, and he was professing his dying love for Rangers again. Really, that's the main bit I remember picking up on, how he loves the club, etc. I don't know if you watched any of that.
I've seen a wee bit of it. I've seen some of the clips, but that's just Giannis trying to get back into good books. Listen, we all know if the club came in from the summer, they'd be away. We'd have took the money, he'd away, but obviously never happened. So he's here. If he's fit, give him some minutes and see what he can do. I don't think he would do any worse than some of them. Goldson's got to be right to speak. He's been here, I think. It still hurts him. He didn't want to leave. I like Goldson after this. I thought he was decent. His last year wasn't great, but last season, no, a lot of players, but I thought he was our best centre back for a good few seasons. But listen, I know he's sticking up for Tab. That's his mate as well. Not stick up for a mate. He's told me it's just one of the things. Guys come out and say things. I don't take anything with it because it's just an interview. It's, you know what I mean, tongue in cheek at times. So
you can't have it both ways. You can't want to hear what players say, then complain when they say things.
No, you can't, Gary. So you agree with him, you don't agree with him. He's got a right to speak about it. He's been here, and I still deep down probably thinks it hurts him because he's left. But like you said, he's probably got a good life there. All the best.
And Ricky, the last one I'm going to pick up on it, gave an interview. The last one was Dessers. Now, I listened to the podcast when I wasn't here and asked you to give some positivity to Dessers, and you literally gave 2 seconds and slighted him. So I'm now coming circling back to this. Dessers gave an interview probably after the game against Olympiacos and embargo and all that sort of stuff a couple of days later came out. But I was quite interested actually listening to him about the chance he missed and talking about how he was mentally fatigued by the time he got the chance because of all the running about and pressing he was doing. And it reminded me of something. It actually reminded me, there's a true story, something comes here, something to this. Because I remember watching Ruud Gullit talk about Marco van Basten and all these other strikers said, the worst thing a centre forward does is run about because it means they're not mentally sharp for when they get the chance. And I just got me thinking about it in general, just about how maybe there isn't an element of truth in that. Players will miss chances because they are doing a different role than they played many years ago. So I'm going to go back and give you a chance to take some of that back a bit, Dessers, before we move on.
Absolutely no chance. He's worse than what... No, but to be honest with you, Gary, right, but being fair, right, Dessers has shown in moments when he's been at Rangers signs of a really good striker. But the problem is it's so in short bursts. You don't see it. You can say, do you get that? It's not about missing chances with Dessers. It's about we're playing Celtic on the 15th in a cup final. And if he starts, to me, that almost gives us almost no chance of beating Celtic because it's like him saying if he scored every chance he wouldn't be at Rangers. Okay, brilliant, you know. But that's just it's not about that. He goes absolutely missing for games, and the way that we want to play, he's not suited. The big thing is he's not suited to Clement's style of play. And for me, he's a massive. Clement made a massive mistake banking on him this season to be his number one striker, and it's backfired big style. Okay, he was maybe hoping that Danilo was going to be pushing him, but for me, Dessers will never ever be a number 9 for Rangers, and it's hard for me to say, but I think he's one of the worst strikers I've ever seen in my entire life, if I'm being honest. And I agree. I would take Murray. I watched that same game that you watched. I thought the Kilmarnock guy was pretty good. I don't know why he got taken off at half-time for Sell. He was bullying the Celtic defence like I've never seen Dessers do anything like that against their two centre-halves. It was Trusty and Scales, I think, on the day, and he was absolutely bullying their centre-halves. Dessers just doesn't do that, you know. So there's no point in there's no point in polishing a turd, and don't even hit me where he's going to score 25 goals. 25 goals. He's going to score 25 goals as we finish third and have to qualify for the Conference League behind Aberdeen. Woohoo!
So I think that Chris Boyd would get booed off the park every week if he played in the current
no
formation
chance.
style.
Chris
Boyd couldn't control the ball, couldn't trap a ball, couldn't pass to another player.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. Boyd was lethal, mate. You give Chris Boyd a chance. Boyd was even in the Masters, he's still fat and lethal. You give Chris Boyd a chance, he was amazing. That's what Shanklin can do. What Chris Boyd does just now for us, 100%.
Back you up here, Gary.
What Boyd did was he was no good against Celtic because the way that we wanted to play, we played Miller, and in European games, okay. But I tell you, apart from that, to compare Chris Boyd to Dessers is absolutely.
I don't want to compare Dessers. I was comparing them to the style of football. Different thing.
Get Boyd on the podcast. Get Chris Boyd on the podcast and say it to his face.
I will say about Boyd. Boyd was lethal, but Walter knew when he could do it and when he couldn't. The problem we've got at the moment with Dessers is he does score goals, and some of the goals he scores are very good goals, but he can be good and he can be awful in the same game. Like, he can get the ball away lethargically instead of just passing it straight to a player, maybe pass it to the opposition. He's lazy at times. I don't know if that's just because he maybe thinks he's doing a lot and he doesn't want to do. I do think he needs help up top at times. I think that may benefit him because I don't think he's a lone striker. I don't think he can play that role, even though he does it. And I think it's just down to the way we play, because putting the ball up to him doesn't work for me. I know he's scored some goals, but you seen it when Danilo came on, he held it up and his movement was better. But like I said about Danilo, he's not scored the goals yet. Dessers has scored. And that is the difference. Dessers has scored a lot of goals, and he's scored. He's got good numbers, but his overall play is no good enough. So we're never happy. Well, Dessers does need somebody with him. But the way Clement plays, that's never going to happen. So I think I'll give him slack at times and I'll give him praise at times, but I still think we need another number 9. But I would keep him because if he didn't get enough money for him, because I do think there's games he can make a difference, but to be your number 9 every week, he will struggle, and we will struggle, because I don't think that suits him the way we play. And he does. You've seen it yourself. He struggles, especially if you're home. He struggles badly.
Unless you're in Europe, which seems to do quite well.
That's because there's more space to put it, Gary.
That's the difference. No, I don't disagree. So we're coming to the end of the. But please like, subscribe, follow. By the way, we've got so before we finish.
You missed one interview. Sorry, you missed one interview. Kevin Muscat. Did you see the new Rangers manager? Did you not see his interview? He did about his. Did you not see his interview about his interview with Rangers?
No, because he was talking about interviews in the summer. He didn't talk about the Rangers one. He talked about one in the summer where Clement had been there for 9 months at that point.
No, he talked about when he did his interview where basically he was hinting at Rangers, and the board turned round to him and said, "Oh no, that's not going to work over here. That's not going to work over here." And he was like, "Well, if that's what you think, he walked out of the interview and his opinion was, well, if you're telling me that's not going to work over here, then I don't think I'm the guy for your club, because you have to give me full control, or it's not going to work. As soon as we have a bumpy patch, then you're just going to say, oh, we were right. So the way he was speaking, it was definitely about Rangers, the board, and there wasn't much.
And they might be right. They might have came here and might know what either. Who knows? We'll never know in terms of.
Who was that in the board that said that, Ricky? Because we've not got any football men on the board.
Well, Souness was there, to be honest, but I don't think it was Souness that said it to him. I think Bisgrove was still there. Souness was there. The Parks, the usual, like something out the Beano.
So anyway, we'll come to the end of the pod, right? Last bit, International Week. international fortnight, international month, international 6 months. It's been since the start of the season. It's been lots of international games, but it made me think that we've got lots of foreign players, lots of non-Scottish players over the years, and I want you to think. I'm going to give you a name of a country, right? And I'm going to just give you each different country.
Name of a country.
Jesus.
Name of a country of teams that play.
He's getting his homework.
This is part of the homework. So it's games that play tonight, teams that play tonight. That's what's to make it easier. So, Portugal, your favourite Portuguese player to play for Rangers, Scott, and we've got guys like Bruno Alves, Nuno Capucho, Dalcio, I think was one of them. Daniel Candeias, who everybody loves. We still talk about Daniel Candeias almost weekly. Pedro Mendes, Cardozo, Fabio Silva, to name some of them.
Cardozo had a good song, didn't he, Fabio? But I have to say, probably Pedro. Pedro was
favourite Pedro moment.
Oh, it's easy.
Against Celtic.
Easy. I don't know if you saw his clip, and my favourite clip was his goal against Celtic, and then there was a new clip of him at the Masters.
Don't say anymore, Ricky. Please don't say anymore. That's taking off air with that one. He looked like he was enjoying himself at the voice. So, Pedro Mendes goal against Celtic. He scored another. What was the one he scored? He scored a brilliant goal. Was it
Dundee United?
Was it a volley kind of thing?
Dundee United, when we won the league, he scored a peach up at Tannadice. Man, same sort of goal against Celtic, an absolute weapon.
He was just such a good footballer, wasn't he?
Oh, he was brilliant, mate.
He played the game in his slippers. He was that good.
He still had the legs as well to give us a bit as well, which was good to see. You know, you still got that couple of years out of him. He was one of the gems.
I only remember about a year. I only remember 1 year really good. I don't know if that's my imagination. Look back on it.
One guy I really liked, he's no Portuguese, but he was two guy. I thought he was superb.
Yeah, he was.
But he's not on my list, is he? So it doesn't really matter.
He's a mine.
Turkey. Turkey are no playing tonight, Kerr. Stop ruining this segment.
They're playing this people.
Another team, Ricky, that's playing tonight. So stop changing the rules. So we've Croatian player. Croatia are one of the other teams playing tonight. So your favourite Croatian player, Ricky, and your favourite moment.
Well, no Borna Barisic, that's for sure. Definitely. Definitely. Dado Perso would have to be up there, man. Big Perso with a headband. One of the guys just fell in love with Scotland. Gave us all on the pitch, you know. He was another player that is. He played with a lot of injuries and stuff like that. You imagine a player like that with sports science now, man. He would never get any minutes. He'd be absolutely fighting with sports science at the side of the pitch. The guy was always had a bandage on his head, or he was his knees were gone. But what a warrior he was, you know. And he was brilliant against Celtic as well. So for me, definitely,
the best moment Dado was when he was singing Fall.
Yeah. He loved it. Yeah, he loved it. He loved the club. And to be fair to him as well, he's not one of the players that's absolutely milked the blue pound, and he could have. You know, he's not one of these players that's retired that you see all the time. Rangers, and he could 100% because the fans loved him, and he was scored some great goals. So for sure, Perso, Jelavic as well, but Perso for me was more of a. I liked Jelavic, but Perso was more of a cult hero with the moments that he gave us and the titles that he won as well, you know.
I'm trying to remember. Dado came to us. He played in the Champions League for Monaco the season before, and he scored four goals in a game and things like that. He was a proper free transfer. You know, when free transfers were just becoming a thing. Again, I can't remember. Was it one season? Really, had then injury started to take a toll.
But he was injured quite a lot, but he still gave us all. Like he was still chipping in with goals.
He's a great player.
You could always count on him. He's a good hold-up player as well.
Him and Novo were good together.
Yeah, they were good together. Novo had the speed, and Perso had that battling spirit.
And Jelavic, as somebody's mentioned there, the goal in the League Cup final, the one we'll remember that bounces off the two posts and spins its way into the back of the net after Vladimir Weiss, who I've heard still wants to come back to Rangers. This is not put a lovely ball through. So, next one then, we have there's nobody playing for Poland. Do you know any Polish players that played for Rangers? In fact, name some Polish players that played for Rangers. Not their favourite moment. Scott?
The one was signed for Dundee. Was the one signed the one for Dundee? Kids Felix or something?
No,
Adamchuk.
Honestly, Adamchuk. He never really played. Did he not have health issues?
Aye.
He was never seen again.
He signed
with
him
the
for the
boys.
the captain. We signed him as well.
Aye.
He was really good with him, and then he came to us and not really sure what happened. But aye.
Then who was the guy we bought? Zukowski or whatever it is, a couple of years ago. Was it Gio that bought him? Never seen young under 21 Polish right back. So anyway, we've no good memories of any Polish players. So we'll move on to another team. Denmark, Scott, and you can't pick Laudrup.
I'm picking Laudrup.
You can pick it quickly, then move on to somebody else.
Can only be God himself.
Yeah.
One of the finest players I've ever seen. Grace
What's your moment then? What's your moment for Laudrup?
So many.
There's so many. Probably at Celtic Park. When I can't remember who was it headed it on now. Was it Jan that headed it on? Was it I can't remember, but
Fraser, was it the Fraser Wishart one with the Fraser Wishart?
Laudrup runs in with Stuart Kerr and Ryan Owens. Aye, but he was just he could run it left, right. He glided across the surface. Do you know what I mean? He was just superb, and I just wish he'd have stayed that time. It went to Chelsea. It just sickened me because he never felt the same love for Chelsea Football Club, and ended up going abroad again. So I just stayed with us because I think we loved him as he loved us.
How do you think he would fit in the football nowadays, 2024? Where would they play and how would they play? Because I don't remember how much defensive responsibility.
It's always a hard question. It's always a very hard question. You know, like I mean, you look at the parks that they played on. I mean, Ibrox was a beach for a lot of the time when you used to watch him in Gaza. But see, having a season ticket and they see watching Laudrup and Gazza in the same team, man. I mean, it was, and okay, people can say, oh, they weren't amazing in Europe and stuff like that. But see, going to watch them every week, it was
the former rule didn't help us back then.
It was, the foreigner rule. But I mean, his goals, his first season against Dundee United when he's beating 3 men. And I was in Broome on that day and he just smacked it right in the top corner against Motherwell when he beat, I think Duncan Ferguson scored. He was doing the same thing. He was beating in... with the cup final when we beat Hearts, 5-0, man, and Jury scored a hat-trick. I mean, that day...
Jury got a hat-trick, Laudrup got a match.
No, it was... But he had to get man of the match because he was... Like, Jukebox scored a hat-trick that day, but Laudrup was just unplayable, man. They couldn't get near him. He was just one of the days. And it was great. You know what was also great when he played for Rangers was watching him play for Denmark because he was doing the same for Denmark, you know. It was amazing back in that days watching him, and he was doing the same thing against Brazil, and it was just it was such a privilege to have an international player like that playing for your club. You know, I mean, what we would go back for the days. You look at the players we've got now, man. I mean, we're speaking about debtors, and it's just what a player Laudrup was. It was great.
Don't ruin the moment, Braggy. Don't ruin the moment.
No.
So, do you know what I remember actually? Laudrup, this. I don't know if you remember this as well, Scott. Do you know my sister was 6 years younger than me, and she did like a 12-inch Laudrup doll. That was totally brilliant. I mean, she adored it. This kind of statue of him that they had at that time. You bought everything. Laudrup, this, that, next thing. Whether you like football or not, Laudrup was a hero.
He's still a hero in Denmark.
So our last one then. I think we'll go France. So not Jerome Rothen, forever remember him. Don't pick him. Not Seb Forey? Remember him back in 2012.
Givars, Basil Bowie. We came in exactly the same time as Laudrup, and he was.
Give us your favourite French one, Scott. Then.
He was a madman.
I always say Basil Bowie because at the same time I thought it was going to be amazing. And then I remember I think it was against Athens in Europe. Walter played him at right back.
Yeah. We've got better options coming up in the comments already. Better options than you've got there.
Boom song, 100%. Amazing.
Part to deceive. Basil Bowie for me was superb. I'm not saying I liked him. Givars really liked. I think he get unfairly criticised by a lot of our fans. Probably Ricky was one, to be fair.
Nah, never.
He did score a few goals for us, but he never really played a lot of games for the start.
He scored a hat-trick against St Johnstone his debut or something like that. He scored
somebody's saying Daniel Curzon.
He was the French guy midfielder that Paul Le Guen signed. He was decent.
Come on, aye.
And that guy was signed. What about the boy we loan for Arsenal? Is he French?
From Arsenal?
Fabrice Fernandes, no.
No, who was a
That
young
was
guy?
Fulham.
Oh, I know who you're on about. When we were just coming back.
Oh,
Was he Spanish?
Jesus, man.
maybe it might have been Spanish. I'm not
Spanish
sure.
guy. I know the guy you mean. I can picture him. I think he was. He was a good player. Hemdani, I think he was Algerian. Somebody's Algerian, might have been. I think so, if I remember right. I don't think he was French, or maybe he stayed in France, but I don't think he was French. So
One of the keepers, no French. Aye.
Lionel Letizier.
No, the other one, Shabonia.
Shaboni, aye.
We used to
Is that
sing the
what
French
the-
national
somewhere,
anthem.
aye.
We used to sing
Shaboni
the
was a
French.
good goalie, by the way.
We
Remember-
used to sing the French national anthem to him. Remember, he was class when he came in, but he was a bit. Even for a goalkeeper, he was mad. You know.
Wait, is that not the time with Charbon? Was that Charbonnet and Niemi and somebody else with the three international goalkeepers at one time?
Yeah, well, good. I think but Kos came in. I think at that time as well. Unbelievable.
He just won the European Cup at Dortmund and he signed him, didn't he?
So he did.
I know.
So he did. So those were the days when we had top international players across lots of different teams. Some of them playing.
To have a
very much
podcast
level.
in their days, to have another Rangers podcast in their days, man, you know.
Boom song would get slaughtered.
What player for your team against that team? What player for this team against their team?
None.
Remember, just when I see them talk about Hemdani, remember Hemdani would get wheeled out just for European games, then straight back in another team for 3 months. It was.
Well, he was decent.
slow.
He
was decent, but he was quite slow.
Just on French, remember the guy Julian Rodriguez? Was that another one that Paul against? Aye, really top notch, meant to be centre back, came in.
Never stayed for long, didn't he? No.
Nah, I just never went anywhere. Anyway, so hopefully that's a nice fun bit to finish in. Not slighting them, not giving them any abuse.
That was nice.
There's another show in that somewhere along the line at another date. That's just to kind of just maybe think someone at a
must be fast. It is his horses. It must be fast up on him.
Yes, I don't know who. Hopefully, it doesn't win many of them. Surely.
Listen, all these guys have got a life after football. No, like they all had that upstairs. Because they weren't earning as much money, a lot of footballers nowadays, they had to do stuff to when they finish to go and do something else. Whereas nowadays, footballers can finish. It's not even done much in the game, and the millionaires. Football is brutal, man.
It's a big problem. That's a big problem, Kerr. You could have a podcast about that on its own, mate. You know, you see it now. There's a guy today with Bayern Munich. They're away to give him €500,000 a week. Musial, is it? The guy, the young guy.
Musiala.
25 million a year, man. The guy's a kid, you know. It's just the one that. That's what I'm saying. But they have to break it, or they're going to lose him because other teams, Man City's going to give him. Other teams are going to give that to their kids, so they don't have a choice. It's the same with Barcelona with the Yamal they've got, who's unbelievable. But that's the way football is now. It's very, very sad at the top level. You know, we're playing a different sport to these teams, but it's sad.
Nice normal fan at the game.
It is. You wonder how these teams are going out of business and stuff, mate. It's terrible, you know.
What you mentioned, the Leon story of £400 million.
Jesus, man, it's incredible. Bordeaux have just went bust. That's all to do with PSG. These teams try to keep up with PSG, you know.
Right, I'm just before I finish. Somebody Paul had put up, got to mention Turner. Turner's Swedish, and the reason I've kept this up was me and Scott. I think we're sitting next to each other. Back in the 1990s, when Turner scored one of the best goals I've ever seen, and where we sat at the Govan stand, you look directly on it.
Yeah.
And watch the arrow in the top corner. I don't know if Scott, do you remember that? It was phenomenal.
I used to slag him all the time. I thought it was garbage as well.
He couldn't run, but that goal was just it's probably one of my favourite goals ever. I just always remember because of that.
It was some strike, isn't it? But that's what you remember for that strike.
Definitely.
Anyway, we've came to the end of the pod. We don't want to drag on too much tonight. We're back on Friday with more of a preview, back to something a bit more focused on the game. So please, if you did enjoy this, like, subscribe, follow, all the stuff you need to do. I'm not going to ask you for any final words because we've run over time a little bit. But it was supposed to be a kind of mid-international break, quick chat. Maybe we've done. It's been on for over an hour. I'll see you all again. Probably see you on Friday. Thanks for joining us, and good night, everybody.